A man stands alone, looking up as snow gently falls around him. A soldier verifying his identity, he is Deputy Director Shim Dae-young, and with his clearance confirmed, a massive reinforced door is ordered open, revealing the desolate landscape of the northern Chorwon conflict zone. He ventures alone into the frozen wasteland, a solitary path behind him, checking a device that projects a holographic map with his target coordinates. His gaze fixed on the distant location indicated by the tracker. Then, a surge of blue energy gathers around his feet and he launches forward with superhuman speed, and awakened with immense power. A power born from the world-changing incident known as Daybreak, an event where monsters suddenly poured from dungeons across the globe, unleashing hordes of terrifying creatures upon an unsuspecting world, and pushing all of humanity to the very brink of total destruction. But then, the Awakened appeared, fighting back to restore civilization, leading to a final, desperate battle in the city of Incheon, where one of the 5 legendary war heroes finally made his stand, and with his victory, the 20-year Daybreak Great War came to an end. Now, 29 years later, Dae-young seeks out a reclusive hero from that war, wondering what kind of 80-year-old man would live alone in such a place. As he closes in on the coordinates, a massive shape looms ahead, his senses on high alert for any potential threat, and he slides to a sudden, sharp stop in the snow, coming face to face with a bizarre and towering monster, identified as a moss duck, a creature with an ostrich body and a duck's head. A beast known for its incredible speed of up to 100 kilometers per hour, the creature is revealed to be a moss duck, and it never travels alone. He powers up his fist, realizing he's facing an A-class monster. But the entire flock reveals monstrous fangs and lets out a terrifying screech, and he instantly knows that fighting them is a losing battle. With no other choice, he turns and flees down the snowy mountainside, the massive horde of monsters stampeding right behind him. Just then, a new shadow passes overhead, wreathed in fire and lightning. Another A-class disaster, the legendary Thunderbird, known for its ferocity. It dives from the sky, targeting the chaos below. But through the panic, he spots a small cabin in the distance, and he pours all his energy into a desperate sprint for shelter. The Thunderbird descends with incredible speed, intercepting his path, its massive armored talons reaching out to snatch him. He looks up into its glowing, predatory eyes, completely frozen in terror, believing he's about to die. Suddenly, a voice rings out, commanding the beast not to eat him. The monster's form softens, its eyes becoming gentle as it holds him, and he realizes with a shock that he definitely heard a human voice. A man with a broom appears, telling the bird to let him go and leave, and the massive creature casually drops him into the snow. He lands hard, scrambling to get his bearings after the fall, watching in awe as a monster obeys a human's command. The man with the broom calmly asks if he's the new deputy director. Stunned and confused, he can only ask who this person is, while the mysterious man dismisses his other birds as well. The visitor is suddenly surrounded by a flock of menacing, sharp-toothed birds, but with a simple clap of hands, a wave of calming energy washes over them, instantly transforming the aggressive creatures into a docile, orderly line, and they march away in perfect formation, leaving him utterly bewildered. He turns to see a young man with a broom who casually tells him he didn't have to come. Stunned, the visitor stammers, trying to confirm if he's found the right person, and the man calmly introduces himself as Choi Kang-ho. Choi Kang-ho then invites him inside for a meal after his long journey. The visitor's mind reels with a shocking realization. This is the 80-year-old war hero, the legendary Beast King who brought peace by winning the Great War. Overcome with emotion, the visitor begs to be allowed to follow him, and soon he's sitting inside a sparse, simple home, noting how empty the place feels for such a legendary figure. His thoughts fixated on how Choi Kang-ho couldn't possibly be 80 years old. Choi Kang-ho senses his disbelief, asking if he's surprised by his youthful appearance, then casually ignites the stove with a flicker of fire from his fingertip, explaining that his old comrades from the war are now powerful old men. But he himself doesn't know why his body simply refuses to age. The visitor tries to rationalize it, but then his eyes land on a strange creature. Choi Kang-ho introduces it as a baby Thunderbird holding up its egg, and the visitor can't help but smile, admitting it's quite cute. He recalls the legends of Choi Kang-ho's power to command all monsters, remembering that the hero always fought alongside a beast partner during the war. A legendary SS-class Phantom, a colossal multi-tailed fox of immense power, but Choi Kang-ho cuts the memories short, serving a meal and asking the real reason for this visit. The agent nervously explains that a serious problem has come up, showing images of new type monsters appearing around Busan and Daegu, which piques the interest of the dark-haired man who asks for more details. After the briefing, the agent says it was an honor to meet him, bowing deeply as he apologizes for the intrusion and trouble caused. But before leaving, he asks one final question about this isolated life, and the man simply replies that he's waiting for something important. As the agent asks what he's waiting for, a massive ice beast materializes behind him, and in a flash, the creature lunges forward, grabbing him by the collar. causing him to scream in terror as he recognizes the G-class saber tiger. The man just waves goodbye, saying the beast will ensure a safe return, as the saber tiger leaps away, carrying the terrified agent into the distance. Once the guest is finally gone, he stretches his arms in relief. He then heads inside to calmly wash the dishes in the sink, before sitting down to feed his two small, peculiar companions. Stepping back outside, he begins sweeping away the falling snow. When the giant white beast suddenly returns, pouncing on him playfully, it licks his face affectionately and he calls it by its name, Mongchi. He asks if Mongchi just dumped the agent somewhere random, and the beast looks utterly betrayed by the accusation. In a quick flashback, the agent is seen sliding down a snowy slope, landing dazed and confused before a soldier who asks if he's okay. The soldier just smiles, saying everyone is shocked the first time, explaining that they've all gotten used to this unique method of travel. Back at the cabin, the man simply gets ready to resume his sweeping. Choi Kang-ho hops onto Mongchi's back, ready for their daily patrol, telling his companion that it's time for them to head out once again. And the massive beast bounds forward with incredible speed and power. A flashback begins, taking us back 49 years to the time after daybreak. The narration explains how Chaerwon became a bizarre ecosystem for monsters, and it was in this very snowy field all those years ago that Choi Kang-ho first met his legendary partner, Seolhwa. Back in the present, he looks up at something in the distance, noting its growth, his eyes fixed on a glowing blue egg resting atop a snowy peak. His thoughts then shift to the great battle from 29 years ago, where a younger version of himself stood alone surrounded by a monster army, his expression calm and resolute despite the overwhelming odds, as the entire horde swarmed in for the kill. A brilliant flash of energy erupts from his position, blasting through the ranks of the monstrous creatures, and he leaps through the chaos, wreathed in crackling blue light. Activating his contract, he calls out his partner's name, Seolhwa, and from the sky, two massive paws descend upon the battlefield, as a colossal, multi-tailed fox crashes into the enemy lines. Choi Kang-ho stands proudly beside his magnificent beast partner, telling Seolhwa that it's time for them to move out. Together, they join the final battle to defend Incheon and end the war, a battle where he would ultimately save the entire world. But the victory came at a terrible price, because in that final moment, he lost Seolhwa forever. His mind flashes back to a dying white fox, its life fading away. He kneels beside his fallen companion, Seolhwa, apologizing for her suffering. The beast's body shudders one last time and he watches on, his expression filled with sorrow and regret. Suddenly, her form erupts in a brilliant flash of light, leaving behind only a small, glowing blue crystal in the snow. He stares in disbelief at what remains of his partner, realizing Seolhwa had vanished, leaving only the crystal behind. And so he has waited here ever since, his body unchanged by time. He speaks to the memory of his friend, noting that a new year is about to begin. Just then, a tiny, glowing fairy flutters down to his wrist, and he smiles as more of them emerge from a nearby gate to celebrate. One of the creatures curiously touches his watch, the time just seconds from midnight. He and Mongchi sit together, watching glowing butterflies in the night sky, as the final seconds of the year tick away on his digital display. At that exact moment, the crystal atop the mountain begins to pulse with energy, and Choi Kang-ho turns his head, sensing the sudden shift. Cracks spread across the crystal's surface as a blinding light erupts from within. A pillar of blue energy shoots into the sky, shattering the crystal completely, and he watches, stunned, as a new form emerges from the explosion. 50 years have passed since the daybreak incident began, and exactly 30 years since the Great War ended at the stroke of midnight. In that moment, he meets a creature that looks just like Seolhwa. The tiny fox approaches him on the very same snowy field where he first met his partner. His mind drifts back 50 years to when he was a young soldier stationed in Cheorwan. A memory floods back of him running from a horde of ravenous monsters, a younger Choi Kang-ho in uniform, desperately clutching a small, white creature. And he recalls meeting his first partner in the chaos, a fox named Seolhwa. Even then, amidst the destruction, a pure white fox had caught his eye. And now, in that very same place, her child has finally awakened. The tiny glowing fox pounces through the snow with surprising energy, leaping gracefully through the air toward the waiting hero, landing on his shoulder to give him an affectionate lick on the cheek. Choi Kang-ho is taken aback by the creature's friendly greeting, the moment hanging silently in the gently falling snow, and he smiles, gently petting the small fox in return. He remarks how much the little one resembles its mother, Seolhwa, when suddenly a flock of winged beasts darkens the sky. Activating his beast eye, he analyzes the creature's pitifully low stats. His eyes glow with power as he recognizes a new type of monster, recalling the agent's report about aggressive new species in the south. He wonders if Seolhwa's child awakening now is truly a coincidence. The tiny fox on his shoulder chirps playfully at the giant Mongchi, reaching out a small paw to gently boop the saber tiger's nose. The scene shifts to the glittering nightscape of Gangnam, Seoul, focusing on the massive mercenary tower, a top guild's headquarters. A streak of blue energy soars through the night sky toward the building, startling a guard on patrol with a sudden flash of light. Two guards spot a small beast on the roof, one shouting for the team leader. And as he frantically calls for backup, his partner grabs him to stop. A guard reminds his panicked colleague of the emergency response manual, which states a young man on a saber tiger is a friend of the chairman. The younger guard is stunned that the urban legend is actually true, as Mongchi lets out a terrifying roar confirming his worst fears. Choi Kang-ho immediately scolds his beast for frightening people, telling Mongchi to wait quietly until he gets back. An older man in a suit greets him respectfully as Senior Choi Kang-ho. Kang-ho waves casually, asking if the person he's here to see is inside. He steps into a luxurious office overlooking the glittering city at night. His eyes fall on a photo of himself with a cheerful, burly man from long ago, reflecting on how young and fresh his friend used to be. He muses on how his friend's footsteps seem to grow heavier with age. A booming voice suddenly calls out his name from behind. It's one of the 5 heroes of Daybreak, the Iron Fist King Im Cheol-bae. Cheol-bae rushes forward, pulling Kang-ho into a powerful, crushing hug, declaring that since they're both 80, they need to drink to catch up. Kang-ho dryly suggests an 80-year-old should worry about his health instead. Just then, a tiny white creature whines from inside Kang-ho's hoodie, popping its head out with an adorable, curious expression. Cheol-bae stares at the small, fox-like beast in utter surprise. He realizes with a shock that it must have hatched from Seolwa's egg. Kang-ho smiles, confirming it's Seolwa's child whom he named. Cheol-bae teases him for coming all this way just to show off the cute creature, then roars with laughter, saying this is even more reason to celebrate. Later over drinks, Kang-ho's tone turns serious, saying he came to ask something. Cheol-bae warns him about a lingering demonic energy, a threat that makes Choi Kang-ho pause and consider the implications. He recalls how every monster from the Great War was fueled by that same dark power, all of it amplified by a central demon which could one day return. But Cheol-bae suddenly changes the subject, slamming his drink down, proudly boasting about his current rank, 40th in the world. Kang-ho's casual praise only makes him complain about his slipping rank, so he pulls out a power measurement device, challenging his friend to a test. Kang-ho initially refuses, calling it a hassle he can't be bothered with, until Cheol-bae playfully threatens to withhold Seol-ae's birthday gift. With a smirk, Kang-ho places his arm into the device, ready to begin. He unleashes his power, and crackling blue energy surges through the machine, which identifies him as the Beast Master, with a combat power of 120,000. The final calculation flashes on screen. He's ranked #1 in the world. Cheol-bae is left speechless, demanding to know what he's been doing all this time. Kang-ho just smiles, saying he's been farming and raising his beasts. His friend slumps in defeat, wondering if a quiet life is the real secret to power. The scene shifts to a special dungeon near Kang-ho's home, the Orchard, a place where fairies and small monsters help grow magical fruit. He holds a massive fairy stone, a gift he plans to use here, planting the glowing crystal deep within the orchard's fertile soil. He places his hands on the ground, preparing to channel his energy, and a wave of brilliant blue light floods the entire dungeon, leaving him and Seol-ae to marvel at the incredible results. The trees are now heavy with glowing power-infused fruit. The fairies and Gelugs suddenly double in size, cheering with newfound energy. And Seol-ae leaps into the air with a happy yip, startling Kang-ho. She seems to be having the time of her life, prompting him to activate his Beast Eye. The analysis reveals her as an SS-rank subspecies with pitiful stats, but her special ability and potential are completely unknown, marked only by question marks. Suddenly, a blue aura flares around Seol-ae's tail, her expression turning sharp and focused in an instant. She glows brightly as Kang-ho watches on, completely bewildered, before she shoots off into the distance like a bolt of light. He cries out her name in alarm, stunned by her sudden departure, but the tiny fox continues her determined dash through the snow. In a flash, she's gone, leaving him utterly speechless. He stands alone in the quiet forest, wondering if she sensed a threat. Realizing he has to follow, he prepares to give chase, channeling his own power as blue energy swirls around his sneakers. With a single powerful step, he shatters the ground beneath him, launching himself forward at incredible speed to catch up with Seol-ae. The tiny fox pants pushing herself to her absolute limit, managing to stay just ahead of Kang-ho's thundering footsteps. He can't help but smile, impressed by her surprising speed, and together they bound across the snowy mountainside in a blur of motion. Seol-ae leads the way, a streak of white against the icy landscape, arriving just in time to see a group of fairies cornered by monsters. The terrified creatures are surrounded by hulking, sharp-toothed beasts, and Seol-ae immediately unleashes a blast of energy to protect them. Seol-ae lets out a fierce cry, unleashing a wave of blue energy. as a horde of snarling goblin-like monsters charges forward to attack, while a group of tiny fairies watches in absolute terror. Choi Kang-ho's eye narrows, taking in the scene before him. Realizing Seola must have run off to protect the fairy swarm, suddenly, a massive serpent-like beast emerges from the snow, and he notes it's far too early for Seola to fight an A-class monster. His analysis confirms the beast is a Titanoboa with powerful A-rank stats. The giant serpent lunges at the tiny fox ready to strike, but Kang-ho calmly holds up 2 fingers, telling it to stop. The Titanoboa freezes in its tracks, stunned by his command. He activates his innate ability, predatory instinct, becoming an apex predator, and the once mighty serpent now cowers before his overwhelming presence. Kang-ho reaches out a hand, his purple aura swirling with power, grabbing the beast's snout and warning it to stay away from here. The fairies look on, completely shocked by this turn of events. The terrified Titanoboa nods in submission to his command. With a single shout, he orders the entire monster horde to disperse, and the fairies begin to cry, overwhelmed with relief and gratitude. But just as the monsters flee, a new creature appears, a menacing rooster. Its eyes glow with a dark, sinister energy, catching Seola completely by surprise. Kang-ho immediately senses the presence of demonic energy from the new beast. His analysis reveals it's a raptor, but its stats are pathetically weak. Yet, Seola still powers up, ready to face the strange new threat. The tiny fox dodges a demonic claw with incredible agility, as Kang-ho identifies the new type monster, sensing its demonic energy, realizing it must have come from a newly formed gate nearby. And if that's the case, he knows exactly what that implies. There must be a demon lurking somewhere in this forest. Just then, he's surprised by a brilliant flash of light from Seola, who suddenly acquires a second tail and a new skill in the heat of battle, as more of the demonic bird creatures emerge from the shadows. The tiny fox looks up at him with eager eyes, asking to go play, and he's struck by how much she resembles her mother, Seowa. He remembers training together with Seowa back in the day, how they grew strong side by side through countless battles. But in the end, that path only led to her tragic death, which is why he wanted to raise Seola as an ordinary child. However, he sees that she was born with a natural love for combat. He realizes he can't keep her from fighting forever, deciding instead to form an official contract with her right now. A ring of light forms as he touches her forehead, vowing to raise her to be the strongest beast there is. A brilliant explosion of blue energy erupts from the pair, coursing through Seol-A's tiny body with immense power, and a silver ring materializes on his finger. The contract ring, a symbol of the bond between master and beast. He smiles, telling her he'll share some of his magic, and with a new surge of energy, she leaps into the fight. The demonic rooster lets out a ferocious shriek, but Seol-A's eyes gleam with focused blue energy, ready for the fight. Through their new contract, Kang-ho activates Sensory Link, sharing her senses and power. The tiny fox clashes with the demonic beast in a shower of sparks, as Kang-ho coaches her from the sidelines, telling her to wait for the right moment. He gives the signal to attack, and Seola springs into action with a determined cry, pouncing on the monster from above with a surge of power. She slams the creature into the ground with a powerful strike, unlocking an inherited skill called Domination, which absorbs demonic energy. Wisps of dark power are pulled from the defeated rooster, leaving the monster completely dazed and confused by the tiny fox. With her eyes narrowed, Seola turns her attention to the rest of the horde, launching herself like a comet into the fray. She smashes into another demonic bird with blinding speed, then effortlessly pivots to take down a second one. The tiny fox becomes a whirlwind of motion, tearing through the monsters. Kang-ho watches with pride, impressed by her natural combat instincts. Seola playfully bats at a stunned creature, clearly enjoying her first real battle. The rooster shrieks in terror as she closes in for another attack, and she bites down, absorbing more of the dark energy. Her status window updates, showing her species as Beka, but her stats remain low. A small blue gem on her collar begins to glow brightly, prompting a smiling Kang-ho to call her back, noting how fast she's growing. Seola turns with a blush, surprised by his call in the middle of her fun. Seola looks up with sparkling eyes, asking if she did a good job, and Kang-ho smiles warmly, confirming she did really well. He suggests they hurry home before the gate closes for good, then turns to the dazed raptors, telling them to wake up. The bird-like creatures snap out of it, looking confused but no longer hostile. Kang-ho muses that without demonic energy, everyone is a friend to Seola, so he rallies the strange new group, telling them all to run together. They all leap out of the swirling purple vortex of the gate, which rapidly shrinks behind them, sealing itself off from the world. Kang-ho lands smoothly in the snow, having made it out just in time, when suddenly, a crowd of hands shoots into the air, cheering his return. He and Seola look on, completely baffled by the unexpected welcome, as the fairies they saved all praise him as the Absolute One, a title that leaves him utterly confused, wondering if they mean him. The fairies continue their worshipful cries, bowing before him and his new raptor followers. They then cheer for their guardian deity, the Silver Beka, and Kang-ho is stunned when the lead fairy speaks to him directly. He asks if by Silver Beka she's actually talking about Seola, and the fairy queen is overjoyed to finally learn the deity's name. She explains that in their homeland, the Beka are worshipped as guardians, recalling a legend of a five-tailed silver Beka who saved them from a corpse dragon. Seola tilts her head, confused to be called a living legend by the adoring fairies, who declare that anyone who can raise a legend must be the absolute one. The fairies begin a welcome dance in his honor, much to his awkward amusement. He observes the fairy queen, noting her crown and ability to speak set her apart. Choi Kang-ho asks the lead fairy if she's some kind of royalty, and she bows deeply before him in a flash of blue light. Introducing herself as Johanna, a princess of the Earth Fairy clan, he smirks, clarifying he didn't guess because of his title, as Johanna explains how her territory was suddenly turned into a dungeon, pulling her and her people into this strange new world. She tearfully recounts how monsters stole their home, leaving her clan to perish. Kang-ho bluntly summarizes their dire situation, homeless and starving. The princess is flustered by his accuracy as her stomach growls in agreement, so he mentions the Earth Fairy dungeon near his home, the Orchard. With a sigh, he offers to let her and her people stay there, and the fairies erupt in cheers, hailing him as their savior. He tries to calm them down as they bow repeatedly at his feet. Wondering if all fairy princesses are this subservient, a swirl of bright energy signals he's summoning one of his beasts, and a massive white lion named Mongchi bursts from the light, catching Johanna and the other fairies completely off guard. The beast lets out a tremendous roar, its eyes glowing with power, sending a wave of shock through the tiny fairy swarm. But their initial fear quickly turns into pure, unadulterated joy, and they begin playfully climbing all over the giant creature. Kang-ho rides the annoyed Mongchi, telling him to behave for their new friends. When suddenly, his phone begins to buzz in his pocket, he pulls it out to find a new message notification on the screen, revealing Cheolbae has added him to a group chat with old comrades. Kang-ho checks his phone, recognizing his friend's handiwork immediately, recalling a fond memory of Cheolbae taking a picture of him and a baby Seola, who was excitedly showing off the wonders of modern technology. By starting a group chat where two other heroes are already arguing, Kang-ho just smirks, knowing his old comrades fight the second they meet, remembering them as the hot-headed idiots who fought beside him in the Great War, a group known to the world as the legendary Five War Heroes. He decides it's time for a reunion, especially now that he's raising Seola, vowing to give her the best training possible to unlock her potential. With a simple message, he announces his presence to the group. The scene shifts to Bukansan, where a massive crowd has gathered, and a news reporter excitedly covers the unfolding event. Word has spread that two of the five heroes are dueling over their ranks, drawing countless fans who cheer them on with phones held high. On one peak stands the world's 20th ranked hunter, a master swordsman, identified as the legendary sword god Park Jun-woo. Across from him stands his rival, ranked just one spot below at 21, the formidable archer known as the Bow god, Kim Ho-young. Suddenly, another figure pushes her way through the excited crowd, and the fans erupt as the flame witch, Lee Mina, makes her appearance. She looks on with exasperation, tired of her old comrades' endless bickering. The sword god roars that he won't retreat even a single step, but the bow god scoffs, promising to cripple him in one shot. Park Jun-woo's eye glows with golden energy, his patience worn thin, and he draws his blade, warning his rival not to blame him for the outcome. The bow god, Kim Ho-young, draws his bow with a furious cry, ready for battle, but Lee Mina simply sighs, musing that her old comrades never change. She steps forward, officially declaring their duel a ranking match with herself as guarantor, when she suddenly notices a streak of light descending from the sky. The crowd looks up in awe as the glowing object hurtles toward them, and Kang-ho lands with a burst of energy, Seola perched on his head. He soars over the stunned onlookers, a whirlwind of blue light landing gracefully between the two feuding heroes. With a sly smile, Mina announces that the ranking match is now cancelled. Park Jun-woo roars in protest, insisting they're past the point of no return, but Mina just smirks, asking if they'll dare continue with Kang-ho present. The sword god freezes mid-swing, his eyes wide with shock, stammering in disbelief that Kang-ho has actually appeared. A single hand rises from the crowd, silencing the commotion, revealing Kang-ho with a calm smile and Seola waving from his head. His old comrades react with surprise, asking about the tiny white creature. Kang-ho cheerfully tells Seola she's going to eat and shop with her new uncles, and the little fox tilts her head, completely baffled by the concept of shopping. The scene shifts to a moonlit dojo, explaining Park Jun-woo's new life, where he founded a guild to train the next generation of hunters. Inside the guild's medicinal storage, a heavy door creaks open, revealing a rare herb called moon salt, which amplifies a monster's power. Seola tries to nibble on the plant, but Kang-ho gently stops her. Park Jun-woo generously offers him the entire supply, noting the fox's resemblance to someone named Seolwa. Kim Ho-young urges Kang-ho to take everything before the stingy sword god can change his mind. The old man insists he was saving it all for him anyway, as Kang-ho offers his thanks. And with a sly grin, the man tells him to visit more often if he's truly grateful. A promise Kang-ho happily makes with Seole on his shoulder. But another old comrade steps forward, grinning that since he's finally back after 15 years. A table laden with food and drinks is slammed down before him. His friends declare they've prepared 15 years' worth of soju, warning him not to run. And Kang-ho sighs, wondering why his old friends are still so childish, as they all yell at him to stop wasting time and just drink. The scene shifts to the modern world, focusing on the Seoul Bank building. A man in dress shoes hurries toward the entrance, where a manager bows deeply, welcoming him back after a long absence. Kang-ho, with Seola on his shoulder, asks to withdraw some mana stones, quietly explaining to the curious fox that they're a form of money for shopping. The manager adds that the weapons storage next to the vault is also his to use freely. Just as a man on a motorcycle pulls up outside the bank, the biker watches intently as Kang-ho is escorted by the bank staff, who bow respectfully as their esteemed client walks away. Intrigued by the VIP treatment, the biker decides to see what this man is really worth. Activating a scanner built into his high-tech sunglasses, his first scan of a bank employee reveals no magic power, only a few low-grade mana stones, causing the biker to scoff at the display thinking it's all for show, until his scanner locks onto Kang-ho, detecting 3 S-grade mana stones casually tucked into his pocket. The scan reveals even more, 2 A-grade and 5 B-grade stones, leaving the biker utterly stunned by the immense fortune Kang-ho is carrying around. A man on a motorcycle watches Kang-ho, wondering if he's a powerful S-class hunter, but his scan reveals a shocking result. No magic power is detected at all. The observer is stunned to realize he's targeting a non-awakened person, as Kang-ho walks on, seemingly unaware that he's being followed. The man smirks, seeing his target as a walking lottery ticket, ripe for the taking. He calls his boss, reporting that he's found the perfect mark in Yongdepo. Meanwhile, Kang-ho enjoys some street food, pondering who would need so many mana stones. The biker continues his pursuit, tailing Kang-ho through the city streets. Their destination is revealed as the gritty 12th Street of Yongdepo. Kang-ho slips into a nondescript building, Seola perched on his bag. Inside, an elderly beastkin woman greets the Beast King, noting it's been 15 years. She asks about his previous beast, Mongchi, before noticing the new creature on his shoulder. Her eyes widen in shock, identifying Seola as a Beka and a descendant of Hua. Kang-ho confirms her guess, but explains Seola is a unique subspecies, a revelation that amazes the old beastkin, who has never seen one before. She looks on with renewed hope, wishing him luck in raising another top-tier beast. Kang-ho gives a faint smile, while Seola looks around with innocent curiosity. He then walks through a bustling market 50 years after the Daybreak event. Seola tilts her head, confused by the strange appearances of the people around them. The narration explains that races from another dimension now live alongside humans here. Among them are the witches, the race of the famous hero Lee Mina, a magical race known for spending most of their long lives looking youthful. Kang-ho then turns his attention to another prominent race from the continent of Mu, as a boisterous dwarf blacksmith greets him with a hearty welcome. The dwarf asks if he found what he needed, and Kang-ho simply says, more or less. The scene shifts to a bustling dwarven workshop swamped with orders from major guilds, where Kang-ho arrives with Seole, politely asking the head dwarf for a favor. He reveals a glowing bracelet, which the dwarf immediately recognizes as a legendary aura blade. Kang-ho explains he needs it tuned up after 15 years of disuse, noting how busy they are. But the dwarf laughs, declaring that for Choi Kang-ho, their debt means his requests come first. He rallies his workers, ordering them to drop all other tasks for the hero's equipment. Kang-ho smiles awkwardly at their unwavering loyalty as a hammer is presented before him. Meanwhile, outside the noisy workshop, someone is keeping a close watch on his activities. A group of men in a car list off the incredibly rare and expensive items Kang-ho just purchased. The leader of the raiders' hunter-robbery gang smirks, planning to ambush him away from the workshop. Back inside, the dwarf presents the newly maintained and upgraded Aura Blade bracelets, explaining they'll be easier to control and have a boosted maximum output. Kang-ho calmly puts them on, declining a test run with a knowing look. He has a feeling he'll get a chance to test them very soon, as he leaves a truck and motorcycle wait ominously in the dark alley ahead, and he walks down the deserted street, seemingly unaware of the eyes watching him. Suddenly, the raiders spring their trap, surrounding him from all sides, but Kang Ho remains completely unfazed by the sudden ambush. The leader scoffs, mocking what he believes is a non-awakened person trying to act tough. Kang Ho calmly asks if they used a magic power scanner to judge him, correctly guessing they misread him because their device has a power limit of 100,000. The raider leader starts to sweat, unnerved by his target's unshakable confidence, but dismisses it as a bluff, ordering his men to attack. Blue energy swirls around Kang Ho's wrists as he confirms all his attackers are present, and with a calm expression, he unleashes the full power of his aura blade. Kang Ho activates his aura blade, unleashing a torrent of blue energy, and the charging raiders freeze in shock at the sudden power display, before being sent flying back by an invisible force screaming in agony. He stands unfazed as their bodies litter the alley around him, leaving the raider leader panting in absolute terror. His scanner still registers no magic power from Kang Ho whatsoever, forcing the horrifying realization that his power exceeds the 100,000 limit. The leader can't believe another monster of this caliber even exists, as the sheer force of Kang Ho's aura shatters his sunglasses. Kang Ho's gaze is cold and unwavering, his hand crackling with energy, and he effortlessly grabs the stunned gang leader by the arm. He pulls up a wanted poster, identifying the man as Lee Jong-myung of the Raiders gang, noting his past as a former executive of the Baekje Guild and his long list of crimes. Lee Jong-myung knows he's completely outmatched and decides to flee, activating his unique assassin ability with a desperate snarl. He vanishes in a streak of purple energy, zipping through the narrow alley, confident that no one has ever managed to catch him while using this skill. But Kang Ho is already there, questioning why a man of his talent chose this life, as his glowing blue arm swings down with incredible speed, creating a massive explosion that rocks the entire street. The raider leader stumbles from the wreckage, realizing he's facing a top-tier ranker, and he scrambles into a defensive stance, vowing not to be caught off guard again. He lands on the ground, frantically searching for his opponent, only for Kang Ho to appear directly behind him with a calm voice and with a single precise strike. The fight is over. Kang Ho calmly warns his attacker not to wave dangerous things around, effortlessly shattering the raider's knife with a single swing of his aura blade. The sheer force of the blow sends the raider leader flying backward, and he crashes hard into a pile of trash with a pained cry. Kang Ho admires the upgraded weapon's improved precision and power, warning the struggling raider leader not to touch the dangerous energy. He correctly deduces the man as over 50, a veteran of the war, and questions why a survivor would choose a life of crime. The raider leader trembles, questioning the value of this new piece, screaming that the world is boring without blood and corpses to enjoy a familiar sight to Kang Ho, who recognizes this type of broken person. The narration explains these are awakened ones whose humanity was shattered by war, becoming addicted to the slaughter and unable to adapt to normal life. They are the madmen created by conflict, a dark secret society prefers to ignore. The raider leader taunts him, asking if he can relate to the feeling. But Kang Ho remains silent, his expression unreadable and cold. The scene shifts to a flashback of a younger hunter speaking with Park Jun-woo, mentioning his shock at having finally met the legendary Choi Kang Ho. Park Jun-woo teases him, asking if he's surprised Kang Ho still looks so young. But the student clarifies he was just surprised by Kang Ho's gentle temperament. Park Jun-woo muses that's how the hero might appear to others now, but he warns his student that this isn't the whole story, revealing that Kang Ho has a nasty side, especially when dealing with criminals. Back in the present, the raider leader freezes as Kang Ho repeats his words with chilling calm. Blue energy swirls around him as he offers a terrifying solution to the man's boredom. A flashback shows Park Jun-woo dismissing a foolish idea. Remembering the sheer terror of facing Kang Ho's wrath, a single blast of energy obliterating everything in its path. Back in the present, Kang Ho slams his fist into the raider leader, vowing to make him understand the consequences of his actions. The blow connects with brutal force, sending blood flying, and a final burst of aura energy ends the confrontation. Sometime later, a phone begins to ring with Kang Ho's name, and Park Jun-woo answers, surprised to get a video call from his old friend. Kang Ho gets straight to the point, asking about a man named Lee Jong-myung, a name that sends the sword god into an absolute rage on screen. He demands to know where the man is, but Kang Ho calmly tells him to send his guild, revealing he's already taken care of the entire raider crew. The defeated leader finally realizes he was fighting the legendary Beast King, and he swears this is all that's left after a thief named Phantom robbed them. The name Phantom catches Kang Ho's attention, as the raider explains the thief always leaves a strange black card behind. Kang Ho turns away, seemingly agreeing to spare his life, but then he grabs the man with a burst of energy, who screams in agony as his power is ripped away. Kang Ho explains he's destroyed his mana core, forcing him to live as a normal person, a fate the raider considers worse than death itself. With Seola on his shoulder, he tells the man to remember the sacrifices made for peace. A stern lesson delivered with a cold, unwavering gaze. As the now powerless man collapses, Kang-ho reassures Seola that not all veterans are like him. With the ambush handled, Kang-ho tells Seola it's time to go home for a meal. But first, she has to take a bath. The mere mention of it triggers a traumatic memory for Seola, who remembers the icy waters of her snowy mountain home. She leaps away in terror, trying to escape the dreaded water, but Kang-ho gently catches her, noting her hatred for baths is just like Hwa's. He explains this isn't a normal bath holding up a strange fruit, a legendary world tree fruit he acquired on their shopping trip. Using his magic, he melts the fruit into the warm bathwater, creating a fragrant, glowing elixir he presents to the curious fox. Her fear vanishes as she dips a paw in, instantly loving the magical water. Kang-ho smiles, relieved that she's finally enjoying herself. He explains that beastkin warriors once used just a tiny bit of the fruit's peel, which was enough to greatly strengthen their fur and skin for battle. But Seola is absorbing the entire fruit's essence in her bath, soaking in its immense power with a blissful expression. The energy in the water begins to swirl and intensify around her until the entire tub of magical liquid is completely gone. Kang-ho looks on in surprise as the last of it evaporates into steam. A satisfied smile crosses his face as he witnesses the result. The effect is immense. Seola now radiates a powerful, pure energy, but Kang-ho realizes something is different, as the effect should have ended. Instead, a new wave of power erupts from the little fox, revealing she has acquired a new trait, Guardian of Nature. This gives her an incredible ability to absorb natural energy far more efficiently. Kang-ho wonders why the magical fruit works so incredibly well on her, and now that Seola is clean and shining, he declares it's time to eat. The scene shifts to a cozy log cabin nestled in a snowy mountain range, where a fairy and a strange rooster-like creature wait inside. They greet him excitedly, realizing he's returned with precious ingredients. Kang-ho smiles, pan in hand, ready to begin cooking for them all. He gives the order, and a group of tiny fairies begin bringing the supplies. The lead fairy lists the rare items, warning that normal fire can't even crack their shells. But Kang-ho simply reveals a handful of powerful mana stones, shocking her. She panics, screaming that using so many at once will cause a massive explosion. Kang-ho just gives a confident smirk, completely unconcerned by the danger. He tosses the stones into the fire, and they immediately begin to crackle with power. The fairy braces for impact, screaming that the entire stove is going to blow. A massive inferno erupts from the furnace with a deafening roar. Yet Kang-ho calmly reaches into the blaze with a glowing blue hand. He effortlessly seizes control of the chaotic energy, bending it to his will. The raging fire is now a perfectly controlled heat source for his pan. The fairy watches in absolute awe, terrified by his incredible magic power. The rare ingredients sizzle in the pan, bathed in magical blue and orange flames, and he roasts them into a fine powder before requesting a special moon salt. He then squeezes a magical juice from the plant he received from Jun-woo. The liquid is mixed with the powder until it forms a shimmering dough. With expert hands, he carefully shapes the dough into small, perfect balls. The energy dumplings are complete, glowing with a potent blue aura. He offers one to the fairy, who recoils in terror, certain it would make her explode. The elf queen tries to explain the special dumplings are for someone else, but it's too late. Seola is already drooling uncontrollably, her eyes sparkling with hunger as she asks if the food is for her. Kang-ho offers her a single potent dumpling, warning her of its strength, and she immediately leaps forward to snatch the treat, gobbling it down in a single enthusiastic bite. A surge of blue energy instantly begins to radiate from her body, and she roars with delight as the power floods her system. The fairies and their queen watch in shock as Seola doubles in size, her power manifesting as a vision of a snowy ancestral home. Kang-ho simply smiles, pleased with the incredible results. As he and the fox run together through the ethereal winter landscape, he notes that she's growing even faster than Seola ever did, reflecting on how little he knew when raising his first companion. A flashback reveals his past self fighting blindly alongside Seola, and he recalls how her loss drove him to master the art of raising beasts. Seola playfully tumbles through the air, reveling in her newfound power, and Kang-ho vows to give her the life he couldn't give her mother. The happy fox bounds toward him through the magical snow, landing in his arms with a surprising amount of new weight. He stumbles backward, and they both go tumbling down a snowy hill, where he promises to make her the best and spoil her completely. She asks about Mongchi, eager to show off her new form, and Kang-ho agrees it's time to go pick up their furry friend. The magical landscape begins to fade as they prepare to leave. A tiny white creature wanders a snowy landscape alone, revealing a saber tiger cub curled up and shivering in the cold. Its eyes snap open, reflecting a startled old man looking down at it, who wonders what such a creature is doing out here by itself. He realizes it's an abandoned cub, left behind by the other beasts, and urges it to follow its family before new fences block the way. A flashback begins, set 16 years ago, as he picks up the tiny creature. He warns the cub that if it refuses to leave, he has no other choice. As his hand moves to the hilt of a large knife on his belt, he grimly prepares to end its life, but the cub just wags its tail happily, suddenly licking his hand and catching him completely off guard. And the old man freezes, his harsh resolve instantly melting away. He slowly puts his weapon back in its sheath, his decision changed, offering the little saber tiger a piece of jerky instead. The cub devours the food as the man muses on the universal struggle for survival. It thanks him with an affectionate lick, and he calls it a poor thing. He says his final goodbyes, turning to leave the cub behind in the snow, and the little creature watches him go with a heartbroken expression. Its eyes well up with sadness at being left alone once more. But the man turns back one last time, giving a warm, reassuring wave, and the cub immediately bolts toward him, filled with newfound hope. Thanks to the old man's kindness, the saber tiger grew up strong and healthy, pouncing on him playfully years later, now a massive beast of pure white fur. The man laughs, deciding to name the giant creature for Ball, and that is how the legendary saber tiger received its unlikely name. A flashback reveals an old man on a snowy mountain with a small white beast, recalling how he contracted a strange disease after losing his family in the war, and he wonders why he couldn't bring himself to kill the cub of his mortal enemy. The little creature, Mongchi, looks up with innocent, trusting eyes, and the man muses that he saw his own lonely past reflected in the beast. But then his illness strikes again, and he collapses into a violent coughing fit, prompting Mongchi to remember the man's kindness and vowing to repay it now. It promises to find food for him and dashes off into the blizzard alone. The old man watches with a faint, weary smile as it disappears into the snow. Mongchi's paws begin to glow with a faint blue energy as it runs. But when it returns with prey, the man has already collapsed unconscious. The small beast desperately tries to wake its only friend from his deep slumber. In its panic, it looks down from the mountain towards the city below, remembering the man's stern warning to never go there and to flee from humans. But Mongchi's resolve hardens as it stares with determination, while its friend lies motionless in the falling snow. It decides someone has to help him and races down the mountainside. The creature speeds towards the human settlement, a blur of white fur and desperation. Alarms blare as soldiers spot it, identifying it as an S-class saber tiger, and they immediately prepare for a disaster, assuming its mother is nearby. Mongchi looks on in confusion, trying to show it means no harm, but a glowing arrow pierces its side, making it cry out in pain. The soldiers unleash a full volley of magical projectiles without hesitation, and the small beast is struck again, tumbling hard through the snow. Wounded but determined, it rises to its feet, thinking only of its friend. Mongchi cries out for help as a glowing spear impales it. It collapses to the ground, begging for someone to save its friend. The small creature's eyes close as it finally succumbs to its wounds, but a hand suddenly stops the soldiers from finishing the job. Mongchi's eyes flutter open, seeing a new arrival before it. Kang-ho, who realizes the cub is completely alone. He places a glowing hand on its head, ignoring the soldier's protests, and tells the creature to lead him to the one who needs help. Mongchi is shocked as a wave of strength flows back into its body. Kang-ho finds the old man lying unconscious in the snow, diagnosing a rare disease caused by an overload of magic. He tells Mongchi its friend is lucky to have such a loyal companion, and channels a powerful purple energy into the man's chest. The old man's eyes slowly begin to open, and he weakly calls out Mongchi's name. The two are joyfully reunited as the beast pounces on its friend. Sometime later, Mongchi sleeps peacefully beside the recovered man, while Kang-ho walks away, having left them to their quiet life. A memory flashes of Mongchi's determined red eyes, followed by a scene of a younger Kang-ho with the tiny cub. Years later, a massive Mongchi stands before a gravestone, its eyes reflecting the solemn monument in the snow. The gravestone bears the portrait of the old man who saved it, whose final wish was for Mongchi to live freely with Kang-ho. And Kang-ho recalls that the old man passed away 5 years after that day. Kang-ho stands with his companions in the snowy landscape, as Seola looks up with wide-eyed wonder at falling droplets, which are revealed to be giant tears from the mourning Mongchi. Kang-ho gently pats the little fox, pretending it's just rain, a yearly ritual from a friend who never forgets, ensuring the old man is never lonely in his final rest. But their moment of peace is suddenly shattered by a buzzing threat, and Kang-ho stands guard, certain the old man is at peace. A giant armored wasp-like creature lands right at their feet, followed by an entire swarm emerging from the blizzard. He grimly identifies them as another new type of monster, activating his beast eye to analyze the immediate danger. The analysis reveals they are battle bees, weak alone but strong in groups. Seola, however, sees a snack and asks if one is for her, and before Kang-ho can stop her, she snatches one right out of the air. He realizes she's instinctively drawn to its demonic energy, just as the captured bee attempts to strike with its stinger. The stinger makes contact, but Seola doesn't even flinch. She simply bites down, happily crunching on her new treat. Its stinger shatters against her incredibly tough fur, and Kang-ho holds up the broken piece, crediting the world tree bath. He inspects the tip, discovering a potent paralytic toxin, realizing the swarm is far too dangerous to be left unchecked. With grim determination, he tells Mongchi it's time to move, and they charge forward to confront the buzzing horde. A swarm of monstrous insects is described, capable of chewing through entire mountains, and they're extreme omnivores that will eventually attack human settlements. With Seole on his shoulder, Kang-ho declares he must wipe them out completely. Mongchi lets out a fierce roar, ready for the coming battle. Kang-ho's eyes narrow as he spots something in the distance, a massive dark portal spewing out an endless swarm of the creatures. He recognizes its red glow, recalling a difficult raid-level gate from 15 years ago. Mongchi snarls at the memory, but Kang-ho reassures him they are much stronger now. Confident in their power, they charge directly into the ominous gate. Mongchi's paws flare with blue energy as they cross the threshold. Inside, a defensive swarm immediately turns to face the intruders. Kang-ho's eyes glow as he unleashes his magic and predatory instinct. The monstrous bees recoil, stunned by his overwhelming presence. They press forward, riding deeper into the cavernous dimension. Raid-level gates are described as copies of other worlds, holding rare resources. Their destination appears to be a massive hive teeming with insectoid guardians. The monsters guarding this place are far stronger than the others outside. He's surprised to find a new species, 3 times larger and more powerful. One of the giant guards lets out a piercing shriek and dives to attack. But Kang-ho effortlessly catches its massive stinger with a single hand. A system window identifies the creature as a Kingle bee with low stats. Despite their low individual stats, an entire army of them fills the cavern. Kang-ho calmly surmises that these must be the hive's true guards. The entire swarm surges forward, a blur of wings and stingers. Activating a sensory link, Kang-ho and Mongchi's eyes glow in unison. A sensory link connects Kang-ho and his beasts, sharing all their power. Mongchi's paws hit the ground, crackling with blue magical energy, and he leaps into the air, dodging a swarm of fiery insectoid monsters, crashing through their ranks with a devastating shockwave of power. The saber tiger's claws tear through the creatures effortlessly, while Kang-ho smashes another with a single focused strike. Seola, perched on his shoulder, decides to join the fight, sinking her tiny teeth into one of the giant bee-like monsters. She struggles to chew on her oversized prey, but the little fox refuses to let go of her prize. Kang-ho smirks, telling her it's still way too big for her mouth. Mongchi continues the charge, plowing through the endless swarm, but the insects retaliate with a volley of venomous stingers, forcing Kang-ho to narrow his eyes in concentration. He realizes the monsters just keep coming without end, and suddenly senses a powerful demonic energy from the swarm's core. Deciding to investigate himself, he calls out to Mongchi, using the beast's paw as a launch pad to vault into the air. With Seola clinging to his back, he soars towards the vortex, diving headfirst into the heart of the monstrous swarm. His hand begins to glow with a brilliant, concentrated light as he prepares to unleash a devastating aura blade. The countless insects swirling around him in a chaotic vortex, he activates the technique, slicing through the horde with a massive blade of pure energy. His gaze fixed and determined as the attack finds its mark. He sees the giant hive, realizing it's the source of the demonic energy. A powerful blast of energy suddenly smashes right into the hive's surface, and Kang-ho lands on it, Seola still perched on his shoulder. He looks up to find a shadowy silhouette emanating a powerful purple aura, recognizing the presence and remarking that it has finally shown itself again. The shadowy entity is a demon, its single red eye glowing with malice, and it seems shocked that they managed to break through its defenses. Kang-ho simply stares back, his expression cold and unwavering. The scene suddenly shifts to a younger man who realizes he's in a terrible situation, and he looks up in despair, certain he's doomed before a sudden confusion hits him.